Hi, I'm Andrew from Creative Guitar Studio. It is Friday, July 16th, 2010. This week I wanted to focus on a question I received off my website from George in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He wrote in saying, Andrew, I'm in my early 50s and I paid attention to the local music scene my whole life here in Minneapolis. I wanted your opinion on something I've noticed over the years. There always seems to be a fresh crop of 20-something musicians getting their names in the local spotlight. Then as time goes on, they fade away and are replaced by the next set of pretty faces. This week I spotted an amazing bassist I knew from the old days of the music scene here, who I believe is also like me in his 50s. And he was working at Costco. For those of you who aren't familiar, Costco is sort of like a big box retail establishment. He goes on to say, Andrew, why is it that so few players actually remain musicians for life? I'd really like to know your thoughts on this one. Well, thanks for writing in, George. I researched, George sent in the name of this bass player. I did a bit of research. I Googled his name and checked him out, and he seems like he's a pretty serious bass player, excellent musician. And it's kind of sad to hear that, here's a hardworking musician, now in a big box retail establishment instead of playing bass for a living. And, there's a ton of variables to George's observation. And in this short video blog, I'll try and answer them as best I can. I think that, it's sort of a good topic for discussion, but in no way can I fully explain this because it is, of course, so individual. But I'll give you my 2 cents worth anyway. Okay, first of all, being a musician for life is no easy task. It's not only going to take excellent playing and communication skills, but those skills also have to be combined with serious entrepreneurial skills. But before we get into all of that, let's begin with the 20-something crowd overview here to start off with. I think many players, in their early years, tend to see the world as being full of opportunity. They seldom have very realistic views of exactly how much money it really takes to get along in life. And many of them live, at home with their parents, and perhaps maybe they're living in small apartments or they're cohabiting with other musicians, the band or whatnot, making all kinds of plans, for a rosy future as rich and famous rock stars, touring the world in their private jet, etc., etc. Now, if they do progress onward in their career to become one of those lucky ones that actually lands good management, or if they're more on the session player, a sideman kind of thing, and they're working for an already established artist, things can certainly be pretty decent, for at least a while. But for a lot of musicians at this early stage of life, there's a lot more time spent daydreaming about who they are and about what kind of life they'll lead once they're successful. And those few who kind of, more or less, I guess you could still call it daydreaming, about what they need to either establish or develop in order to be who they want to be. Those are the people that will probably be more likely, the few that are actually going to remain musicians for life. Now, keep in mind, I started with the statement overall in this video that there are a lot of variables here, because picture this, there's a musician might meet, and marry a spouse who, let's say, makes a lot of money. So if that's the case, well, the cash flow thing doesn't really pose a significant issue in their lives. That musician can grab the odd gig here or there. They can work when they want, and it's not really all about paying bills. It's probably going to become more or less, I guess, a social thing. But for the average musician, the likelihood of marrying a wealthy or high-income earning spouse might not be in the cards, of course. So the development of the musician's career is vital to earning a living. And one of the dangers of not properly planning for the future is that as a musician, let's say, gets older and older, perhaps marries and maybe starts a family, the income earned from gigs and sessions more than likely won't really exactly be enough to actually cover the monthly bills. Let me just give you a quick glimpse, into my own life briefly. Like this month, aside from the standard batch of bills, for the mortgage and buying food and car payment, fuel expenses and insurance and the deposits, towards family savings and the home and business telephone, internet, cable, family, entertainment that we might do, utilities, credit cards, and it just goes on and on and on. I'm sure I forgot lots of things in there, but on top of that, I had to buy actually a new set of tires for the van. The tires were hit, and then my van needed front and rear brakes, I found out, so there was another hit, and I had to sign off on a job to replace our old furnace because the furnace in our home is really old, and it's summer here right now, so obviously perfect time to replace the furnace. But these are all heavy hits, Now you think about, economics of this for one moment, and even if I played like 5 gigs every week for and each one paid me like, I don't know, like $200, that would still only really be around like $4,000 a month. And for a guy my age, and if you have a family and that's just not enough money. To just get by, never mind live comfortably, to just get by. I believe I read recently something like, they say a typical family to just be comfortable needs to pull in a combined income of like $100,000 or $120,000, I think it was, per year. And if your spouse, has a good job, and let's say your spouse is pulling in $60,000, then, you as a musician are responsible for that other $60,000, or even try and make $50,000. That's not really that easy to do as a musician. In fact, for most musicians, pulling in $25,000 to $30,000 annually is not an easy task by any means. Never mind $60,000. So, George, to really answer your question, this is why you see those 20-something musicians out there getting press and doing all this stuff. They really have no heavy responsibility in their lives, so they can work these low-paying jobs. They can work these no-pay jobs. I guess in the industry we usually call that free for exposure gigs, and they don't have to really. They don't have any commitments. They don't have a mortgage, and most of them just live at home. Their parents are usually buying them their food, and the parents are paying the mortgage, and so to be a musician for life, what players need to focus on, I guess in their early years, you could say, is, early on in the career, you have to establish something, be it a name, a music-related company, something that could certainly, be a brand, I guess, so maybe it could even be a band that you have that gets really popular. Could be even a series of books you publish. It could be maybe even an internet website. But anyway, something that will be perceived by a good deal of people in the world as having value, maybe even just in your city as having, value. Obviously, if you go worldwide, you're probably make more money with it. But, like in any business, a product or a band or whatever, that has value is going to make the owner or band leader or whatnot, a songwriter or whoever, it's going to make you money. So it will establish, an ongoing income on top of, just making a monthly salary. But, for a musician as they get older, in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they won't have to search out another line of employment because, they'll be doing what they love and doing, it and earning a decent income, hopefully, from it. But, as we get older, you got to remember, too, it gets harder to lug the amp around or to, pack up that set of drums and lug it around and move the keyboard from one gig to another or whatever. As musicians, we need to kind of, I guess, look at the future and plan. Now, the unfortunate thing, and I'll just kind of have to end off with this, is the unfortunate thing is not everyone is really cut out for this business, for life. For a lot of players, regardless of the skill level, being a musician is basically, it's like a temporary thing in their life. And maybe they have playing skills, but they just don't have, maybe the business ability, and maybe, and because of, I guess, the economy, the way it's always changing, and, for some reason, right now we're in a particularly volatile market condition. And, if a musician does have a family and the gigs begin drying up, well, somehow you still need to put food on the table and keep a roof over your head. So anyway, I hope this helps explain your question, George, and I hope that everyone found something, useful or interesting, at least anyway, in what I'm saying. But anyway, that's pretty much all the time I have for today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll be blogging again next week. Take care. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time.